It was July 14th, 2024, a day in China, and Pan Xiaoting was getting ready to go live. The 24-year-old influencer had built her name on mukbang, binge-eating massive quantities of food in front of a cheering audience. For many, it was entertainment. For Pan, it had become everything. Her identity, her career, her burden. That day, she sat before the camera like she had so many times before. Her table groaned under the weight of over 22 pounds of food, fried chicken fingers, platters of seafood, and slices of rich chocolate cake. Thousands were already tuned in, flooding the chat with laughing emojis, gifts, virtual roses. She smiled. She waved. She said hello. No one watching knew it would be her last stream. Pan hadn't always lived like this. She once worked as a waitress, just a young woman looking for a way forward. Then she stumbled into the world of mukbang, watching others eat on livestream. It started as a hobby, something harmless. But her bright personality, her willingness to take on shocking food challenges, they pulled people in. The views came, so did the money and the pressure. In time, she quit her job, rented a studio, bought equipment. She went all in. The more extreme her streams got, the more fans she earned. It wasn't long before Pan Xiaoting was one of China's most watched mukbang creators. Her face a regular presence on smartphones and tablets across the country. But while her popularity soared, something else was slowly breaking inside her. Her parents tried to warn her. They begged her to stop. They pleaded for her to see what was happening to her body. But Pan always brushed it off. "I can handle it," she'd say. "I know what I'm doing." They didn't know about the hospital stays, the internal bleeding, the pain that came once the cameras turned off. Or maybe they did. But what do you do when your child is chasing a dream that's slowly killing them? That day, the stream began like any other. 10 hours, she said. A full-blown eating marathon. Her audience cheered her on, completely unaware of the quiet desperation behind her determined grin. At first, she chatted and laughed, wolfing down piece after piece like she always did. But something was off. As the hours dragged on, her energy faded. Her smile faltered. Her breathing grew heavier. Her hands moved slower. Viewers began to worry. Comments filled the screen. "Pan, slow down. Take a break." But she didn't stop. She couldn't. And then, a sudden motion, a faint gasp. Her head dropped. The screen shook as she collapsed. For a moment, there was only silence. Then chaos, frantic comments, screams from the chat. But it was already too late. When emergency responders arrived, Pan Xiaoting was unresponsive. The autopsy revealed the horror. Her stomach had ruptured under the extreme pressure. Her digestive system, already weakened from repeated stress and previous injuries, couldn't handle the weight of one more challenge. She died on camera. Mukbang wasn't supposed to be like this. It started as a way to feel less alone. A stranger on your screen eating a meal with you, talking, laughing. But over time, the genre twisted into a spectacle of excess. A race to the bottom. Who could eat more? Who could shock the audience? Who could bleed for the algorithm and smile through it? China had already tried to fight back. In 2021, new laws cracked down on binge-eating content, but streamers like Pan found ways around it. Psychologists called it a dangerous game. Dietitians warned it was suicide in slow motion, but none of that matters when the comments keep coming, and the audience keeps cheering, and you feel like the only way to matter is to keep going. Pan's fans were heartbroken. Some posted memorials. Others shared her old clips, remembering her infectious laughter and warmth. But alongside the mourning came anger toward the culture, the pressure, the platforms that let this happen. Why did no one step in? Why do we keep watching people fall apart for our entertainment? Why is pain so easy to monetize? Her death wasn't just a tragedy, it was a mirror, a reflection of what this world does to those trying to be seen. Her story is more than just the end of a live stream. It's a cry for help buried under fried chicken and flashing emojis. Ana Pauli, whose real name was Ana Beatriz Pereira Alves, was a rising Brazilian influencer and content creator whose life ended in one of the most tragic and shocking ways imaginable. On January 23, 2025, she fell to her death from the 8th floor of the Mont Blanc Apart Hotel in Nova Iguacu, Brazil, while reportedly filming adult content. What should have been just another night of work turned into a mystery that has kept investigators, fans, and the media piecing together the events of her final hours. Her death was not only heartbreaking but also surrounded by confusion, unanswered questions, and conflicting stories that made it even more haunting. According to reports, Ana Pauli was at the hotel with at least 2 or 3 men who were with her to film explicit material. At some point during the night, after drinking alcohol and allegedly consuming drugs, the situation spiraled into something no one could have anticipated. Witnesses and those present gave police wildly different accounts of what actually happened, which immediately raised suspicions. Some said she fell accidentally while leaning or climbing over the balcony. Others hinted it was possible she was pushed, while another version suggested intoxication caused her to lose balance. The contradictions in statements left authorities with more questions than answers, and the Baixada Fluminense Homicide Division opened an in-depth investigation. Police quickly moved to gather every bit of evidence possible. Hotel CCTV cameras were seized for review. Her phone was taken for digital examination, and witnesses, including hotel staff, were interviewed to reconstruct the timeline. An autopsy and toxicology tests were ordered, aiming to determine whether drugs or alcohol directly contributed to her fall. Meanwhile, those last present with her admitted to being under the influence of substances, which cast even more doubt on their reliability as witnesses. While some news outlets suggested it might have been an accident, others hinted at darker possibilities, pointing to the inconsistencies in testimonies. As days passed, reports began to lean toward the theory that Ana Pauli's death was accidental. Some investigators suggested she may have slipped while attempting to climb or lean over the railing with no clear evidence of foul play, but even with that possibility, the lingering suspicion and unanswered questions continued to haunt the case. For her family, friends, and fans, the uncertainty only deepened their grief. Her boyfriend, Pedro Henrique, shared his devastation publicly, mourning the sudden loss of the woman he loved and calling for a complete and transparent investigation. His emotional tributes showed just how deeply Ana's passing affected those closest to her. Ana Pauli's funeral took place on January 25, 2025, at the Jardim de Mesquita Cemetery in Rio de Janeiro. Mourners gathered not only to say goodbye, but also to remember her as more than just the headlines that followed her death. She was a 27-year-old woman with dreams, ambitions, and a digital presence that had attracted thousands of followers. Her passing became a sobering reminder of how unpredictable and fragile life can be, especially in the world of influencers and adult content creators, where risks sometimes lurk behind the glamour. In the aftermath, her story has sparked wider discussions about safety, accountability, and the pressures of the online content industry. The tragic circumstances of her death highlight the reality that behind the camera, influencers are human too, vulnerable to accidents, risky environments, and the consequences of choices made under pressure. While investigators continue to finalize their conclusions, one truth remains certain: Ana Pauli's story will not be forgotten. Her name has now become a cautionary tale, a reminder that behind the allure of fame and content creation lies a very real human life, one that ended far too soon. It was October 13th, 2024, in Talavera de la Reina, Spain, when 26-year-old British influencer Lewis Stevenson set out on what would tragically become his final adventure. Known for his daring stunts and breathtaking exploits, Lewis had captivated thousands of followers with images and videos from dizzying heights, sharing his love for extreme, adrenaline-fueled activities. That morning, he had his eyes set on scaling the 630-foot Castilla-La Mancha Bridge, one of the tallest bridges in Spain, without any safety gear, hoping to capture the perfect shot for his Instagram. Friends and family had warned him repeatedly against such dangerous pursuits, but Lewis, driven by the thrill rather than fame or fortune, was determined. His grandfather, Clifford Stevenson, reflected on his grandson's motivations. Lewis didn't seek attention. He chased the rush, the exhilaration of pushing limits, of feeling alive in ways most could not imagine. His girlfriend, Savannah Parker, remembered his last words to her the night before. A simple, "I love you." Neither of them could have known those would be the final words she ever heard. That early Sunday morning, Louis set off with a 24-year-old friend. Heavy rains had left the bridge slick and treacherous, but Louis's focus never wavered. They climbed steadily, reaching about 165 feet above the ground when disaster struck. Louis suddenly lost his grip. Time seemed to freeze as he fell, his body disappearing from sight. A passing driver witnessed the scene and immediately called for help. Emergency services arrived at 7:14 a.m., but there was nothing they could do. Louis was gone. His friend, in shock and disbelief, could barely speak, and authorities later confirmed that no charges would be filed against him. The tragedy was compounded by haunting details. Savannah recalled that Louis hadn't been feeling well that morning. He had told his friend he needed a moment to rest. She suspected he hadn't eaten, which may have weakened him before the climb. He had never experienced such symptoms before during his previous stunts. The fall, sudden and irreversible, sent shockwaves through the tight-knit community of thrill-seekers and influencers who had followed his fearless journey around the world. Tributes poured in from friends and fellow adventurers, each sharing memories of Louis's daring spirit, his boundless energy, and the way he inspired those around him to embrace life fully, even if dangerously. His Instagram account, Expedition, documented climbs on skyscrapers, hotel rooftops, and iconic structures from New York to Mexico City. Each post a testament to his fearless approach to life. Just days earlier, he had shared a photo from the top of Nottingham Forest Stadium, unaware that it would be one of his last. The local community in Talavera de la Reina mourned deeply. Officials, including Macarena Munoz, the counselor for citizen security, reiterated the dangers of climbing the bridge and the strict prohibition in place. The tragedy highlighted the fine line between thrill-seeking and recklessness, raising questions that linger in the minds of family, friends, and fans alike. What if Louis had taken the warnings more seriously? What if the weather had been clearer? What if he had paused, reconsidered, or been more cautious that morning? Louis Stevenson's story is a stark reminder of both the allure and the peril of living on the edge. He will be remembered not only for his breathtaking feats and daring spirit, but for the passion and intensity he brought to every adventure. His life, tragically cut short, serves as a cautionary tale about the real dangers behind the pursuit of extreme thrills and the fragile line that separates exhilaration from tragedy. It was a quiet day in the Tibetan highlands, September 14th, 2020. In beautiful region of Aba, nestled in China's Sichuan province, a woman named Lamu began her morning like any other, with a song. To her 780,000 followers on Douyin, China's version of TikTok, Lamu was more than just an influencer. But behind those gentle videos was a truth she rarely spoke of. Lamu was living in the shadow of fear. She had married a man named Tang, and that marriage, far from the peace she shared online, was full of pain. In June 2020, she divorced him, but Tang wasn't done with her. He began harassing her relentlessly, demanding she return to him. She stood firm. She said no. That morning, she posted a video of herself singing a traditional Tibetan song, soft, serene, maybe even hopeful. No one knew it would be her last. Later that day, she went live. Her followers tuned in as they always did, expecting calm, comfort, familiarity. But then, the screen suddenly went dark. There was no picture, just sound, and the sound was terrifying. It was Tang. He had broken into her home, carrying a bucket of flammable liquid. He confronted her in the middle of the stream, and then he lit the match. The fire erupted. Viewers couldn't see it, but they could hear everything. Thousands of people, helpless, listening as a woman they cared about was burned alive in real time. Neighbors rushed in, desperately trying to save her. They smothered the flames and called for help. Lamu was taken to the hospital with burns over 90% of her body. For 2 agonizing weeks, she fought to survive, but on September 30th, she slipped away. When news of her death broke, it spread like wildfire. People were devastated, furious, heartbroken. Across China and beyond, fans flooded her Douyin account with messages of grief, love, and disbelief. How could something like this happen? How could a woman who had already escaped abuse be left so vulnerable? Tang was arrested and charged with intentional homicide. In October 2021, the court sentenced him to death, calling his actions extremely cruel and acknowledging the enormous public impact of the case. But for many, justice still felt far away. Lamu's death wasn't just a tragedy, it was a spark, a wake-up call. In 2016, China passed a law criminalizing domestic violence, but critics say it doesn't go far enough. Same-sex couples aren't protected. Emotional and financial abuse are still often ignored. And, culturally, many people are still told to keep it in the family, meaning victims rarely get the help they need. During her marriage, Lamu had gone to the authorities. She had tried to speak up, but her pleas were dismissed, written off as family disputes. That failure cost her her life. In 2020, China introduced a 30-day cooling-off period for couples seeking divorce. It was meant to reduce impulsive separations, but for women like Lamu, it's a dangerous delay, one that traps victims in relationships they're desperate to escape. A 2013 survey by the All China Women's Federation revealed that 1 in 4 married women in China have experienced domestic violence. In rural areas, it's even more widespread. There's no easy exit, no clear path to safety. After her death, activists, fans, and ordinary citizens pushed back against the silence. Her Douyin page turned into a digital memorial. Lamu's life was about resilience, simplicity, beauty in the everyday, but her death was a brutal reminder of what happens when systems fail the people who need them most. It is the kind of story that makes you stop scrolling, rub your eyes, and think, wait, did that really just happen? Because the tragic death of 23-year-old Mexican beauty influencer Valeria Marquez was not just another headline, it was a horrifying moment that unfolded in real time on TikTok right in front of her followers, and it turned what should have been a normal evening of live-stream content into something that looked more like a scene from a crime documentary. Valeria was young, vibrant, and building her career in beauty and fashion, running her salon Blossom the Beauty Lounge in Zapopan, Jalisco, while also creating online content that drew in thousands who admired her makeup skills and bubbly presence. On May 13, 2025, she went live as usual, stuffed toy in hand, almost like a comfort prop. But viewers quickly noticed something was not right. Her nervous expressions, her uneasy glances, and her haunting words, something along the lines of, "They are coming," gave off the kind of tension that makes your stomach drop even if you are only watching through a screen. And then came the chilling interruption. A man reportedly disguised as a delivery worker with the promise of a gift arrived at the salon, walked inside, and in one of the most disturbing twists imaginable, asked, "Are you Valeria?" To which she replied, "Yes." Within moments, he pulled out a gun and fired at her, striking her in the chest and head, silencing her forever while the camera kept rolling. The live stream cut off only after someone believed to be a friend or employee picked up her phone and ended the broadcast. But by then, countless viewers had already witnessed a young woman's life violently cut short. What followed was a wave of grief and outrage across Mexico and beyond, because Valeria's killing was not just about an influencer. It was about a bigger, more terrifying issue. Femicide. Authorities quickly announced they were investigating her death under femicide protocols, given that Mexico has one of the highest rates of gender-based killings in the world, with nearly 10 women murdered every day, and Valeria's case, tragically, fit that grim statistic. Her salon, once a symbol of her ambition and independence, became a crime scene swarmed by investigators, forensic teams, and journalists, while her followers flooded social media with tributes, disbelief, and anger. The haunting detail that she seemed to know danger was near, that she almost predicted her fate live in front of her audience, made it all the more chilling, like a final, unintentional goodbye broadcast to the world. The investigation so far has raised more questions than answers. Who was the man who posed as a delivery worker? Why target Valeria, a young woman whose life seemed centered around beauty, business, and digital content? Was it a personal vendetta? A case of stalking, or something tied to the broader culture of violence in Jalisco, a region already infamous for cartel activity and high crime rates? While prosecutors dig into CCTV footage, interview her friends and family, and comb through her online presence, what remains certain is that Valeria's killing is not just another crime story. It is a reminder of how public lives can make women even more vulnerable, How fame in the age of social media can attract both admiration and deadly attention, and how tragedies like hers keep forcing Mexico to confront a crisis that refuses to go away. For her fans, it is heartbreaking to think that what started as a regular live stream meant to share beauty, positivity, and connection ended in violence that will never be forgotten, turning Valeria Marquez into yet another name on the devastating list of young women whose lives ended far too soon, leaving behind a legacy cut short and a live stream that no one ever expected to become her final moment. On July 14, 2019, in Utica, New York, 17-year-old Bianca Devens, a recent high school graduate with a growing online presence, was looking forward to her future. She shared her love for emo fashion and video games, and she dreamed of studying psychology at Mohawk Valley Community College. Friends and followers knew her for her bright smile, her humor, and the glimpses of her life she shared online. But that morning, everything changed. A few months earlier, Bianca had met 21-year-old Brandon Clark on Instagram. Their connection seemed stronger to him than it did to her. The day before, they had attended a concert together in New York City. On the drive back to Utica, an argument erupted in the car. The details remain murky, but what happened next was unimaginably violent. Bianca's life was cut short in a senseless act that stunned everyone who knew her. In the aftermath, Brandon shared horrific images of Bianca on social media platforms like Instagram and Discord. The images spread like wildfire, shocking viewers and leaving her family and friends devastated. One concerned person from Tennessee contacted the Utica Police Department after spotting a photo of Bianca with a serious neck injury tagged to her hometown. When officers arrived, they found Brandon beside his car, conscious but bleeding from self-inflicted injuries, still posting online. He was subdued and rushed to the hospital for emergency surgery, leaving Bianca's loved ones to grapple with a grief too heavy to bear. Bianca's family was shattered. Her mother, Kimberly Devens, spoke of the trauma of seeing her daughter's images circulated online. Strangers sent the photos to her and Bianca's sister Olivia, tagging them with hateful messages. Even as friends and family mourned, some members of online communities glorified Brandon and attacked Bianca, turning her death into a spectacle. Among the pain, a few tried to honor her memory, countering the cruelty with love, but the scars remained. During his trial, Brandon pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and was sentenced to 25 years to life. He apologized in court, acknowledging the unimaginable harm he had caused, though his words could never undo the tragedy. Reports suggested that jealousy may have fueled his actions, triggered by Bianca's interactions with someone else at the concert. The relationship between them, friends, acquaintances, or something more, remains debated. What is undeniable is that obsession and uncontrolled emotion led to a life-ending tragedy. Bianca's story is a chilling reminder of the darker side of social media. Graphic images and cruel remarks amplified her death, haunting her family and friends for years. Kimberly Devens now speaks out, warning others about the dangers of online exploitation and the need for awareness and protection. Bianca's life, her bright future, and her untimely death continue to echo as a tragic caution. Behind every online profile is a real person, and sometimes that reality can end in heartbreak no one could imagine. It was a quiet evening in Suffolk, Virginia, May 16, 2024. Inside one home, something was unfolding, something that would leave a family shattered. 17-year-old Raleigh Freeman III, known to fans as Rio Huncho, was live on social media again, a rising voice in the local rap scene. His performances had energy that caught fire. With nearly 28,700 Instagram followers and tracks gaining traction on Spotify, Rio was building something big. That night, his stream started off like so many others. He was charismatic, confident, and like many young rappers in his lane, he sometimes flashed props to fit the aesthetic: cash, fashion, and that night, a handgun. It wasn't new, he'd posed with one before, but this one was different. Real, with a green laser sight and flashlight. In the video, Rio waved it casually, almost playfully, as if the weight of what he was holding didn't register. He laughed. He spoke boldly into the camera. Then, he pointed the gun at his head. One breath, One trigger pull, a bang, the phone hit the ground, and everything stopped. At first, no one knew what to believe. Was it a stunt? A special effect? Had Rio just pulled off a shocking moment to keep his audience guessing? But as seconds turned to minutes, the realization hit like ice. This wasn't a performance, it wasn't a joke. Rio had accidentally shot himself. Live, paramedics arrived quickly. He was rushed to the hospital, but the damage was done. The moment that started as just another live stream had ended with the loss of a young life, just like that. The news tore through the community, but no one felt it harder than his mother, Monica Savage, a single mother. A woman who had poured everything she had into raising her only son. In a heart-wrenching interview, she recalled the moment she found him. Her voice broke as she cried out, "I just want my baby back." It was the kind of grief that lives deep in the bones, a kind that never fades. His cousin launched a GoFundMe to help cover the funeral. At his school, the halls felt heavier. Teacher Cara Dorsey shared memories of him online, urging students to chase their dreams the way Rio had. But even as the community mourned, questions began to rise, questions that needed answers. How did a 17-year-old get his hands on a loaded firearm? Why was it accessible? Why wasn't it locked away? Authorities opened an investigation, determined to understand what had gone so wrong. The footage, undeniably live, spread fast. Some watched in disbelief. Others criticized those who had doubted it was real in the first place. It was tragic, raw, unfiltered. The internet can sometimes blur the line between spectacle and reality, and this time, the cost of that blur was a human life. Rio's music still echoes in the headphones of those who followed him. Tracks like Money Getta, Bag Talk, and DOA pulse with rhythm, ambition, raw honesty. His Spotify profile even hinted at his love for pop culture, with a photo of actress Mia Goth standing in as his cover art, showing his playful, creative side. He wasn't just trying to be a rapper. He was one, with a voice, a vision, a future. Gun safety experts have long warned about accidental firearm deaths, especially among teens. Many of these tragedies are preventable. Simple precautions like locking weapons away, keeping ammunition separate, educating families on firearm risks. These things can save lives, but too often they're ignored until it's too late. Kelly Drain, a researcher in gun policy, spoke out after Rio's death. She stressed that tragedies like this are not inevitable. They're not fate. They're failures. Failures of oversight, of access, of awareness. And now, all that's left is a void. A boy with dreams, gone. A mother with no son. A mic left silent. Georgi Dzhanjanalitsa's story is one of those haunting reminders that sometimes chasing the perfect shot can come at an unimaginable cost. At just 23 years old, the Georgian-born fitness influencer had built a life many admired. He was energetic, ambitious, and had a growing online following of more than 100,000 people. His Instagram feed was full of workouts, motivation, and the kind of positivity that drew in fans from all over. Behind the inspirational posts and well-structured captions, there was also a young man who loved adventure, exploration, and pushing himself to new experiences. Unfortunately, one of those adventures would end in tragedy. On March 13th, 2024, Georgi was in Italy exploring Roghudi Vecchio, a deserted ghost village perched in the mountains of Calabria. The spot is famous among urban explorers for its eerie, crumbling buildings and haunting atmosphere. It was the perfect backdrop for dramatic content, but it was also a dangerous setting with unstable structures and precarious edges. While standing on an abandoned balcony without railings, Georgi slipped, lost his balance, and fell into a deep ravine below. Just like that, the life of an influencer known for strength and vitality was cut short. The rescue attempt was immediate but incredibly difficult. Firefighters from the Melito Porto Salvo unit, along with the SAF Speleo Alpino Fluviale team, rushed to the scene knowing every second mattered. Yet the ravine was so deep and rugged that even getting close to him required the assistance of a helicopter. After hours of effort, they were able to recover his body and transfer it to Salin Jonish before handing it over to local authorities. For those who had followed his journey online, The news hit like a shockwave. Here was a young man who seemed invincible in his workouts, always projecting power and positivity, suddenly gone in an instant because of one unlucky slip. His death was a stark contrast to the content he loved creating, videos and posts meant to inspire strength, motivation, and health. The impact on his loved ones and followers was immediate. Georgie's close friend and fellow influencer Chris Kogias, who had been traveling with him, confirmed the heartbreaking news with a simple but powerful message. Zayn is no longer with us. Please pray with us for his soul to rest in peace. His girlfriend, Elena Margariti, shared a deeply emotional tribute on Instagram, describing him as the most beautiful person inside and out and promising, "We will meet again." The message captured the raw pain of losing someone so young, so vibrant, and so full of potential. There is a sobering lesson in his story. Social media often glamorizes risk-taking, adventure, and the pursuit of ever more breathtaking content. But the reality is that these moments can carry very real dangers. Georgie's death is not the first of its kind. There have been other influencers who lost their lives while chasing dramatic shots in risky locations. But his tragedy serves as yet another reminder of the thin line between adventure and danger. His passing leaves behind not only grief, but also reflection. To his fans, Georgie will be remembered for his drive, his optimism, and his dedication to fitness. To his loved ones, he will remain the cheerful, strong, and kind soul they knew off camera. And to the wider world, his story is a reminder that behind the perfect angles and captivating content are real people with fragile lives that can change in a split second. Georgi Zayn Janalitsa's life may have been tragically short, but his impact through his content, his friendships, and the message of positivity he carried remains strong. On December 22, 2021, the influencer world was shaken by the sudden death of Maya Chinsky, known online as Mava Cho. At just 32, she was a mother of 4, a vibrant presence in the YouTube community with over 150,000 subscribers, and a woman who shared her life openly, inviting fans into her world through personal family vlogs. But behind her cheerful videos and curated posts, Maya was battling something far darker. Relentless online harassment that pushed her to the breaking point. Maya had openly discussed the toll of constant bullying on her mental health, explaining how the threats, degrading messages, and false accusations made her feel trapped and constantly watched. On the day she died, she had filed a legal complaint against her ex-husband, Adrian Chinsky, accusing him of using his online platform to incite harassment against her across Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch. The complaint detailed emotional abuse, false claims about her parenting, and a continuous wave of public attacks. The very platforms where Maya once found joy and connection had become arenas of cruelty. Following her death, the investigation revealed the full extent of the harassment she endured. On February 27, 2024, Adrian and his new partner were placed under judicial supervision and charged with harassment that allegedly contributed to Maya's passing. For Maya's family and her last partner, Roman, it was a small step toward justice, a recognition that her suffering had not gone unnoticed. Maya's lawyer confirmed that the charges reflected substantial evidence of actions that directly impacted her well-being. Adrian, however, denied all wrongdoing, claiming he had done nothing to harm Maya and pledging to protect their children while countering the wave of negativity that followed her death. Maya's journey online had begun in 2013, and by 2018, she had grown into a significant figure, sharing her unfiltered life as a mom on her channel, Mahavu, an unapologetic mom. She had even appeared on a reality show, which increased her reach and influence. By the end of her life, she had 151,000 YouTube subscribers, 990,000 Instagram followers, and 38,000 Facebook followers. Her content inspired many, but it also exposed her to a relentless digital spotlight that few could escape. Her personal life was complex. She lived in Batimosel with Adria, raising their 4 children while running a marketing and information business together. They had established a charity to support orphanages, but their relationship deteriorated over time, culminating in a bitter split. In the months before her death, Maya filed 5 complaints against Adrian for emotional distress, but they did not lead to immediate action, leaving her frustration and fear unresolved. Meanwhile, Adrian, posting online under Adrian Vlog and blah blah, publicly denied any responsibility for the harassment, framing himself and his new partner as victims of ongoing attacks and pledging to support their children. Maya's story raises urgent and painful questions. Could her complaints have been acted on sooner? Could social media platforms have done more to prevent harassment? Could her community of fans and supporters have intervened in time? These unanswered questions highlight the devastating consequences of online abuse and the vulnerability of influencers who live their lives in the public eye. It was January 27, 2021, in the small town of Smolensk, Russia. Inside a cramped, chaotic apartment, 60-year-old Yuri Dudin, lovingly known to the internet as Grandpa, sat in front of a camera once again. For many viewers, Yuri had become a familiar face as part of a controversial YouTube channel called First Step. But behind the screen, this wasn't just another quirky live stream. This one would end in silence. The stream started like so many others. About 150 people tuned in to watch. But they weren't just passive viewers, they were participants. As donations rolled in, so did demands. Drink more, take another shot, prove yourself, and Yuri, ever the crowd favorite, raised the bottle. They egged him on. They paid to watch. Almost 1.5 liters of vodka disappeared down his throat, glass after glass. The chat moved fast. Donations ticked up. But Yuri, he was fading. His words slurred. His body swayed. And then he dropped. No cut to black, no end screen. Just Yuri, lying still on the floor. For a long time, his lifeless body remained on camera. The stream didn't stop. Neither did some of the comments. While a few viewers panicked and begged someone to call for help, others kept joking, acting like it was just part of the twisted show. A dark, sickening spectacle. By the time emergency services reached his address on Udarov Street, it was too late. He was gone. The channel's host, a 39-year-old man known only as JEA, had built his following on what's known in Russia as trash streaming. These streams exploit people who are homeless, addicted, or just struggling, and dangle money in front of them to do increasingly dangerous and humiliating things. Live for an audience. The more painful, the more extreme, the more money rolled in. Yuri had become a fixture, a character, a mascot. Viewers called him Grandpa with fondness. But few stopped to think about what it meant that he kept coming back to drink himself sick for their entertainment. Over time, the pressure to do more, to go further, only grew. That night, it reached a breaking point. As the shock of Yuri's death spread, authorities moved in. Russia's investigative committee launched a criminal case, targeting the organizers behind the stream. Prosecutors began combing through footage, messages, and viewer donations to piece together the full story. What emerged was deeply disturbing, a pattern of reckless endangerment and casual cruelty, all for clicks and cash. Yuri's death hit a nerve. Russian Senator Alexei Pushkov went public, calling for an immediate crackdown on trash streams. He demanded legislation to ban this kind of content, arguing that the internet had become a playground for exploitation, where vulnerable people were used up and discarded. If nothing changes, if these platforms keep prioritizing engagement over ethics, if society keeps laughing while people fall apart on camera, then Yuri won't be the last. And next time, it could be someone else's grandpa.
Sagar Tudu, a 22-year-old YouTuber from Berhampur, had a dream shared by countless young creators to capture breathtaking videos, earn recognition, and maybe ride the wave of virality into stardom. On August 23, 2025, that dream collided with reality in a way nobody expected. Sagar, along with some friends, traveled to the majestic Duduma waterfall in Odisha's Koraput district to shoot reels and drone footage. Duduma isn't just another scenic backdrop, it's a massive 500-foot cascade, mesmerizing to watch but equally unforgiving. Despite warnings about rising water levels due to releases from the nearby Makun Dam, Sagar stepped onto a rock midstream, hoping to nail the perfect angle. At first, it looked bold, the kind of daring shot that racks up views, but in an instant, it became clear he had underestimated the raw power of nature. A sudden surge of water swept across, turning a reel into a real-life nightmare. The video of what happened next spread faster than wildfire, chilling, chaotic, and unforgettable. Sagar was caught off balance as the current dragged him, while friends shouted and desperately threw a rope in vain. Bystanders watched helplessly as the young influencer disappeared beneath the force of the waterfall. Swallowed by currents no one could fight. What was supposed to be scenic content had now turned into haunting footage that left viewers stunned. The rescue mission began almost immediately with police, fire crews, ODRAF, and local volunteers combing the area using boats, divers, and even drones. But nature wasn't giving up its grip. Days of effort only turned up his filming bag with equipment and batteries, but no sign of Sagar himself. Heavy rains and treacherous currents slowed everything down, and though the search continued, by August 27th, the tragedy was already being spoken of in past tense. As with most viral tragedies, the internet responded in unpredictable ways. Some people mourned, empathizing with the pressures influencers faced to constantly up the ante for content, while others mocked, labeling him reckless and careless. The cruelty of memes and sarcastic comments poured in, overshadowing the grief of those who knew him personally. Yet beyond the noise, the story sparked a deeper conversation about how the chase for online validation often pushes young creators into dangerous territory, where one miscalculation can cost everything. Sagar wasn't some thrill junkie. He was a 22-year-old chasing a career path that millions dream of, but the waterfall didn't care about likes, followers, or ambitions. His disappearance became a stark reminder that no reel, no video, and no fleeting fame is worth risking your life. Duduma remains breathtaking, but it now carries the weight of a cautionary tale, a reel gone wrong that turned into a tragedy, etched into the timeline of influencer culture.
It was June 19, 2019, in Brooklyn, New York, when 29-year-old Desmond Amofa, known to his fans as Etika, disappeared from the world he had built online. Known for his high-energy personality and love for gaming, especially Nintendo, Desmond had become a beloved figure in the gaming community. Thousands of fans tuned in to watch his live streams and videos, drawn to his infectious enthusiasm. But behind the smiles and excitement, Desmond was fighting a silent, devastating battle with his mental health. Months earlier, in October 2018, YouTube had suspended his channel, EW Network, after he posted content that violated community guidelines. The suspension marked a turning point. His posts and streams grew unpredictable, sometimes alarming, hinting at a deepening struggle. In April 2019, Desmond live-streamed a standoff with police, posting disturbing images of himself holding a gun. Authorities intervened, and he was taken to a hospital for evaluation. For those who followed him, it was a shocking glimpse into the turmoil he faced behind the screen. On that fateful day in June, Desmond uploaded a video titled, "I'm Sorry," to his channel, T1 Hyeman. In the 8-minute clip, he spoke directly to his followers, expressing regret, apologizing for his recent behavior, and signaling a distress that went far beyond anything fans could have prepared for. Alarmed, viewers reached out to authorities, but shortly after posting the video, Desmond vanished. For 5 days, the city searched. The New York Police Department issued public alerts, calling on anyone who might have seen him to come forward. But the worst fears were realized on June 25th. Desmond's body was found in the East River in Lower Manhattan. The gaming world was stunned. Fans, fellow creators, and even YouTube itself shared messages of heartbreak and condolences. The official YouTube creator account acknowledged the loss of someone who had inspired and entertained thousands, mourning a bright life extinguished far too soon. Desmond's story exposed the intense pressures that come with online fame. The constant expectation to perform, to entertain, and to engage with massive audiences can magnify underlying mental health struggles. Experts note that while social media can connect people, it can also intensify anxiety, depression, and isolation, especially for influencers whose lives are always on display. Researchers like Kaylee Cruzen from Cornell University stress the urgent need for studies on the unique impact of social media on public figures, where attention can become a double-edged sword. Even with support from fans, the gaps in sustained mental health care were painfully clear. Desmond's messages on platforms like Twitter, Reddit, and YouTube in his final months revealed deep distress, a silent cry for help that went beyond what his followers could provide. Esports consultant Rod Breslau reflected on the immense pressures influencers face. noting how demanding it can be to manage large audiences while navigating personal struggles. His passing ignited urgent conversations about the responsibilities of social media platforms, the need for proactive mental health support, and the dangers of leaving creators without a safety net. Dr. Victor Schwartz, Chief Medical Officer of the JED Foundation, emphasized the need for accessible, proactive interventions that connect vulnerable individuals with professional resources. Desmond's story is both heartbreaking and cautionary. It is a reminder that behind every online persona is a real human being, grappling with real challenges. His life and work touched thousands, leaving a legacy in the Nintendo and Smash gaming communities that will not be forgotten. Yet it also serves as a stark warning. Mental health struggles can lurk beneath the brightest smiles, and without support, even the most vibrant lives can end in tragedy. It was a quiet summer evening in Kuzhou, China, July 20th, 2021. 23-year-old Xiao Qumei, known online as Xiao Yi, remained in her crane cabin, taking in one last peaceful moment after a long day. To her thousands of followers on Douyin, she was more than just a crane operator. She was a force, a young mother of two, confidently working one of the most physically demanding and male-dominated jobs out there. Through her videos, she gave people a rare window into her world, perched hundreds of feet in the air, laughing, dancing, explaining the technical parts of her work with ease. Her joy was infectious, her courage inspiring. That evening, as golden hour bathed the horizon, Xiao decided to record one final clip before heading home. Just a short video, just a little slice of her life. She smiled into the camera, cheerful and proud, her voice carrying softly over the wind. Then, something changed. The footage suddenly shifted. Blurry flashes of metal, a sudden jolt, and then a scream. A scream so sharp, so real, it sliced through the quiet. And then, silence. Xiao had fallen 160 feet from her crane to the unforgiving ground below. When emergency responders arrived, it was too late. She was pronounced dead at the scene. News of her death hit the internet like a wave. Fans were stunned, heartbroken, confused. How could someone so full of life, who had just smiled into the camera minutes before, be gone? Some began sharing the footage of her fall, fueling online speculation and sorrow. Was she holding her phone? Was it a tragic mistake caught on camera? Or was something more to blame? Her family, broken with grief, spoke out. They insisted Xiao wasn't filming when she fell. She had always been responsible, they said, always kept her phone tucked safely in her bag while working. According to them, the accident happened not because she was distracted, but because of a missed step while climbing down from the crane. A slip, a single misstep in a job that leaves no room for error. And just like that, a mother, a daughter, a wife, was gone. Her funeral was held in silence and simplicity. Her ashes rested on a small table beneath an umbrella, surrounded by those who loved her most. No fanfare, no spotlight, just sorrow and the memory of a life that had burned so brightly. Authorities launched an investigation into the accident, but no further details were released. Questions lingered in the air like dust on a hot summer wind. Were safety protocols ignored? Was this preventable? And beneath it all, another question whispered across social media. What is the cost of chasing connection online? Xiao's story became more than just news. It became a reckoning, a reminder that real lives lie behind the videos we watch, the likes we tap. A reminder that influence comes with invisible weight, and sometimes with heartbreaking risk. Just weeks before, another influencer, Sophia Chung, had died while taking a photo near a waterfall. The parallels were haunting. Young women building lives online, lost in the blink of an eye while doing what they loved. Xiao Qumei didn't chase fame. She chased the sky. She climbed high, both literally and metaphorically, to build a better life for her children and to break barriers in a job few women dared to touch. Her legacy isn't just the videos she left behind, it's the space she carved out for others like her. And now, in the silence that follows her fall, her voice still echoes, a soft reminder of how fragile and precious life can be, even in the strongest hands.
In late September 2024, the city of Tbilisi became the center of international attention after the tragic death of Russian influencer Irina Glazunova. At just 24 years old, she had been enjoying what should have been an ordinary night with a friend, filming a TikTok in First Republic Square. The video was meant to capture her singing along to the track For the Last Time by the Hunger Boys, moving backward as the camera rolled. What neither she nor her friend anticipated was that the seemingly harmless setting concealed a hidden danger, a knee-high barrier that bordered an open drop into a subway underpass. Distracted by filming, Irina stepped back, tripped over the small wall, and fell several meters headfirst into the underground passage. The injuries she sustained, including a fractured skull base and broken neck, proved fatal, and despite being taken to the hospital quickly, she passed away a few hours later. News of her death spread rapidly, amplified by the fact that the fall had been caught on camera. Viewers were shocked not only by the suddenness of the accident, but also by the conditions that allowed it to happen. How could a central square in a major capital city have such an obvious hazard left unaddressed? The answer lay in Tbilisi's infrastructure. The square, a remnant of Soviet-era urban design, still featured outdated structures, including the low parapet that had caused the fall. At just 30 centimeters high, it did little to serve as a protective barrier, and instead created the perfect scenario for a devastating accident. The public reaction was immediate and emotional. At the site of the fall, people gathered to place flowers and candles, transforming the location into a memorial. Online, users across platforms expressed grief and disbelief, sharing clips and stories that made Irina's final moments part of a global conversation. Many called for accountability, pointing out that her death could have been prevented with something as simple as a higher railing or clearer signage. City authorities, criticized for inaction, finally moved to install barriers around the dangerous drop. It was a reactive measure, but one that acknowledged in a painful way that a life had been lost to an avoidable design flaw. Beyond the infrastructure debate, Irina's death resonated because of who she was. She was not a reckless thrill-seeker chasing viral fame. She had recently graduated from the Russian Academy of National Economy and Public Administration, worked in public relations, and was admired for her humor, kindness, and advocacy for animal welfare. Her online presence was authentic, relatable, and human, qualities that allowed her to connect with followers on a personal level. That is why her final video struck such a chord. It captured not danger or risk-taking, but a simple, joyful moment interrupted by tragedy. It felt both random and deeply unfair, underscoring how fragile everyday life can be. In the weeks following her death, discussions expanded beyond the specifics of the accident. Commentators reflected on how modern habits like filming content in public spaces collide with environments that were never designed with these behaviors in mind. The risks of distraction, often minimized in daily life, took on new weight in Irina's story. Her death became more than just an isolated event. It was a cautionary tale about the intersection of technology, human attention, and urban planning. Today, Irina Glazunova's name remains linked to both a painful personal loss and a broader societal lesson. Her story reminds us that behind viral headlines and shocking videos are real lives with real futures cut short. It is a call to improve safety, to pay attention to how cities are designed, and to remember that even in the most ordinary moments, life is fragile.
It was September 27, 2024, in Tbilisi, Georgia, when 27-year-old TikTok personality Irina Glazunova set out for what should have been an ordinary evening with friends. Known for her vibrant personality and infectious energy, Irina had captivated thousands of followers online. Her videos showcased everything from her playful antics to quiet personal moments, and her fans loved the way she made them feel part of her life. That night, like so many others, Irina carried her phone with her, recording snippets of laughter, shared jokes, and candid moments with friends. The city's streets seemed alive beneath their feet, and Irina's excitement was palpable, her camera capturing the joy that had become a signature part of her presence online. Their wandering eventually led them to a dimly lit subway station. The faint glow of the station lights barely illuminated the steps leading down, casting long shadows across the ground. Irina, ever the performer, decided to sing a song by the Russian band Hunger Boys for the last time, while her friend filmed her. She was fully immersed in the moment, her voice carrying lightly across the station, completely absorbed in the music and the lens. She laughed, gestured to the camera, and appeared entirely in her element. But in her focus, she didn't notice the knee-high wall at the edge of the stairs, a low, seemingly harmless barrier that would soon change everything. In a single, tragic misstep, Irina tripped over the wall. Her body disappeared over the edge into the underpass below. The video captured her final scream, echoing off the concrete walls before the recording went dark, replaced by the frantic voices of friends calling her name, rushing to reach her. Emergency responders arrived within minutes, but Irina had suffered catastrophic injuries, including severe head trauma. Despite the doctor's desperate attempts to save her, she did not survive. The news of her passing rippled quickly through social media. Fans and friends were stunned, unable to reconcile the cheerful, vibrant Irina they knew online with the sudden tragedy. What had begun as a night of laughter and music ended in heartbreak, a stark reminder of how fragile life can be. A memorial soon appeared at the station, with flowers, candles, and heartfelt messages left by mourners. People who had never met her in person shared their grief, connecting through shared sadness and remembering the joy she had brought to so many. But the tragedy also sparked urgent questions and debates. The video of Irina's accident went viral, forcing social media users and journalists to examine the safety of the station. Why had such a hazard been left unprotected? Could a simple guardrail or barrier have prevented the accident? Critics pointed to the fact that the station had been designed during the Soviet era, with infrastructure that, while technically up to modern standards, failed to account for the real-world risks posed to pedestrians in the dark. City officials assured the public that the station met current safety guidelines, but many remained unconvinced, demanding immediate upgrades to prevent similar accidents in the future. Irina's death also served as a chilling reminder of the dangers posed by distraction in public spaces. Phones, cameras, and constant documentation of life's moments have become so ingrained in everyday behavior that even minor lapses in attention can have devastating consequences. Social media culture, which encourages capturing every moment for likes and views, may have inadvertently contributed to this tragedy, highlighting a growing public concern about the risks of recording content in unsafe environments. For Irina's family and friends, the grief has been profound and unrelenting. They remember her not just as a TikTok personality, but as a daughter, a friend, and a light in every room she entered. The videos she once posted for entertainment are now bittersweet relics of her life, cherished memories shadowed by the knowledge of what was lost. Her laughter, energy, and spirit continue to resonate, reminding those who knew her of the unique spark she brought to the world. Her story, however, reaches beyond personal grief. It has sparked discussions about public safety, urban infrastructure, and the responsibilities of both city planners and social media users. Safety advocates have used her death as a rallying point to demand stricter regulations, better lighting, visible barriers, and more thoughtful urban design to protect citizens.